Okay, good afternoon everybody. Can I thank you for coming along to today's meeting of the Planning Applications Committee. If we can go straight on to the agenda, item number 1 is the evacuation procedure. We're not expecting any practice alarms to go off today, so can I just ask, can everybody hear me okay? Pardon? Yeah, I don't know. I can't hear you. I can't hear other people, that's the problem. Hang on, Wendy, I'll just move this up. Is that any better? Okay, right. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarms go off, we'll treat them for real. If we can vacate the chamber by both sides of the room, there's nobody up in the main public gallery. Down the front steps, please don't use the lift, and we'll meet across the road by the Yorkshire Bank. If anybody needs any assistance, give us a shout and we'll make sure some help's given. It's also a good time to remind people to turn your phones onto silent or to switch them off. And just to let people know that as most meetings of the council are now, this one is being recorded and will be put out via the council's website within the next few days. Item number 2 is to receive apologies for absence.
None received, Chair.
Sorry? None?
Received.
Councillor Smith?
Councillor Wilson sent his apologies.
Okay, thank you. Item 3 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting on the 3rd of July. Are you happy that I sign those? Yeah? See people nodding. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Item 4 is to receive declarations of disclosable pecuniary and other interests in accordance with the Members' Code of Conduct. And item 5, declarations of contact. Councillor Smith.
Item 3, Chair. I've spoken to residents about this item, but I haven't disclosed any voting intentions.
Okay, thank you. And item 6 takes us on to applications where the public have indicated a desire to speak. If I just run through that process for those people that haven't been here before, what happens is the officer will present the report. Following on from that, we'll take the speakers as listed on our paperwork. There's been some changes, so I'll let the members know about that in a moment. Under the Constitution, you're allowed 3 minutes to make your presentation. I will be strict on that, just so that it's fair to everybody. However, following on from that, members may wish to ask for points of clarification. They can only be to clarify something that you've said during your 3 minutes. Again, following on from that, the officer may or may not wish to respond to any of those points. And then it will be for a member of the committee to move something and somebody to second it. That will enable debate to take place. And normally the committee reaches a decision on the day. Not always, sometimes things are deferred for a site visit or for further information, but generally speaking, the decision's made on the day. And so I can just inform members and the public really, our list of speakers has been a slight alteration. We've got speakers on item number 1, but if you can remove Mrs Cheryl Lockhart and substitute Mrs Greenwell, and also add to that list Councillor Gutteridge as an objector. And then on item 4, we have Mr Mystery, who is the agent and wishes to speak in favour of that application. Okay, so that takes us on to item number 1. Darren, please. Lutterworth Road.
This application property is a two-storey
Hang on, Darren, could you move your mic around a little touch more?
Hello? Hi, is that okay?
That's better, yeah.
The application property is a two-storey detached house with a pitched roof which was built in the 1960s, located on the corner of Lutterworth Road and Thornhill Drive. The proposal is for a two-storey extension to the front, side and rear and a single-storey extension to the rear of that. The existing garage is to be demolished. The application is being reported to committee at the request of Councillor Guttridge, as well as receiving 6 neighbour objections. There are two-storey extensions to the front. The one to the right will provide a walk-in bay window to the living room and a bedroom. There's one over here. It will have a dual-pitched roof and with eaves height of 5.4 metres and a ridge height of 6.4 metres. The extension to the left will provide a porch on the ground floor and a walk-in bay window to another bedroom. It will have a mono-pitched roof with a minimum height of 5.3 metres and a maximum height of 7.3 metres. There will be a two-storey side extension and a two-storey rear extension. The two-storey side extension will be flush with the original front elevation and project off the original side elevation. It will then go the full length of the original house to connect up with the two-storey rear extension. The two-storey rear extension will project across and slightly beyond the full width of the original property, and the roofs will be a dual pitch with an eaves height of 5 metres and a maximum height of 7.3 metres. The rear single-storey extension will project off the rear of the two-storey extension and will have an L-shaped front footprint. The likely impacts will be to number 300 Lutterworth Road and 62 Thornhill Drive. On 300 Lutterworth Road, it's considered that none of the windows in the existing rear elevation are original and therefore cannot be protected. The side-facing elevation to number 302 contains 2 secondary floor windows and a first floor window. The 2 at ground floor are secondary windows for sources of light, and the first floor window is a non-habitable room, none of which can be protected either. The first floor windows at 302 Lutterworth Road are non-habitable. These windows are down here on the screen. These are 2 bathrooms. Along the boundary, the 2-storey side extension and rear extension will stretch some 5 metres, 1 metre beyond that recommended in the Council's Residential Design Guide. However, the removal of the existing garage frees up 6 metres of uncluttered boundary space, mitigating the 1 metre over and above the 4 metres as recommended in the Residential Design Guide. Number 62 Thornhill Drive, the rear boundary is well over 20 metres, considerably over the 7 metres recommended in the Residential Design Guide. This slide gives 3D comparisons of the existing property and the proposed property to the right. Whilst the additions will create a large dwelling in a prominent location on the corner of Lutterworth Road and Thornhill Drive, it should be noted that the plot size is extensive and capable of accommodating the extensions. The very nature of the surrounding area is characterised by medium to large detached properties with large gardens. Furthermore, the fact that Lutterworth Road is flanked on both sides by wide grass footways gives the area of an open and spacious appearance. Highways were consulted and had no objections. They initially objected, but on the grounds of detrimental impact to the highway, but since it's been proposed that the garage will be demolished, they have now removed their objection. Officer recommendation is to approve the application subject to conditions.
Okay, thanks, Darren. Thank you. Mrs. Greenwell, if you can press the large button on your gadget in front of you, that will turn the microphone on.
Hello. We're pleased that the garage is no longer going ahead, but can we guarantee in the future that plans will not be put in again, because there will be an objection going in again, because it's such a dangerous road. We have a blind bend there, and the traffic would be terrible. Is this house going to be for multiple occupancy, or is it just going to be for sole occupancy? Because we are very worried about the parking, where they're all going to park. And also, yesterday, as we came out of Thornhill Drive to go onto Lutterworth Road, there was vans parked and we couldn't see to get out. Is that going to be the case while all this building is going to go on? Are we going to have all this disruption? Are we going to have all these vans parked down so we can't get in or out of Thornhill Drive? Is in future, the size of this house, is there a chance there is going to be a change of occupancy? Like a usage is going to be like changed into a home or something like that because of the size of it? We're just not very happy about this building at all because of the way it's going to be. And is he going to have fencing up down the side, or is it just going to be looking onto Thornhill Drive? We don't know what's happening, and we're not very happy about this at all. Anything else? Eh? What about the grass area? He's not going to take over that grass area, is he? Because that is for the public, that. It's not attached to this house. Anything else? I think that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any points of clarification? No? Councillor Smith.
You just referred to. What were you actually referring to with this grass area?
Well, he's not going to take it over. That land is his. It's where the on Thornhill Drive. We've got the power thing there, haven't we? We've got the substation there, and this is what you wanted to go over to build it to get into the garage, which was objected to. Okay,
thank you for some of those points. First of all, while it's on our mind, the grass area, I believe that's outside of the boundary of the...
Yes, it is. Belongs to the county or... belongs to this Borough Council.
Well, that'll be for somebody else to deal with. There was an issue about...
Multiple occupancy. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, unfortunately. That would need a different planning application for a change of use.
So change of use, you can put in another objection.
Yeah,
yes.
they would have to apply for a change of use if that was going to be the case. Yeah, okay.
If there's no fencing around the property, we can condition the fencing, could we?
Yeah.
Certain fences and walls can be put up without planning permission, so that the potential occupiers could move in and put up a fence which doesn't actually require planning permission if it's at a certain height, providing it's land that they own and they're not encompassing the land to the side, which is council owned. We don't know at the moment what that will be, if they're going to put a fencing up, but potentially they can do that subject to the height without permission. Yes, but we can't, under this application, there's no information if that's going to be replaced. At the moment, we're considering the application for the extension. In the future, they may well choose to change their boundary treatments, but again, that could be something they could do without planning permission.
Okay, Mr Nash.
Speak this evening. My client owns and occupies the property most affected by this proposal. It's number 300 Lutterworth Road. He's not against the principle of extending the existing property per se, but is concerned that the correct planning balance is not being struck under those proposals before you this evening. The report paints a picture that the impact on my client's living conditions would be acceptable. The reality is somewhat different. Whilst the 45-degree rule set out in the Residential Design Guide may be adhered to in terms of technical compliance, this is only due to the fact that the main windows providing light to his kitchen and dining areas cannot be protected by the guide, them not being original. Similarly so, the Design Guide takes no account of the effect on his primary external amenity space, that is his patio. The proposed scale and mass of the extension would completely enclose both internal and external spaces at 300 Lutterworth Road. The extension projects considerably beyond the rear of my client's property, completely obscuring direct sunlight onto the back of his property after 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's in the height of summer. By mid-morning, there'd be no direct sunlight at all to my client's patio. Diffuse light would also be significantly reduced. These are the impacts in the height of the summer, so one can only imagine what the effect would be in the depth of the winter. In addition, the position of the first floor rear-facing windows and the proximity of the extension to my client's boundary would also mean that there'd be direct overlooking of his patio. This is contrary to the design guide, but it's not discussed in the report. Whilst the report indicates compliance with the design guide, the guide is just that, guidance. Its content clearly states it will be used flexibly, and hence as a benchmark to assess proposals, not as a rule book. As part of assessing the application, professional judgment should be exercised with all material considerations taken into account. A prominent material consideration here is the unique arrangement of my client's property and the proposed development, one which is not easily catered for by the design guide. Furthermore, my client and residents in the vicinity have serious reservations over the sheer scale and bulk of the proposal, it effectively doubling the size of an already generous detached property. The corner plot location means this scale and mass would dominate the street scene from both Lutterworth Road and Thornhill Drive, and that's contrary to the design guide too and the provisions of the national framework. My client urges the committee to consider the implications of granting permission this evening, as allowing the development to proceed in its current form would permanently subject them and his family to unacceptable living conditions. It is suggested that permission should be refused, or at least that a site visit is first made so to view the proposal from my client's property, so to fully appreciate the detrimental impact it would have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No? Darren, Claire, anything you need to come back on? No?
I'm not too sure when regards to direct overlooking, there are no windows directly overlooking.
Okay.
No habitable room. No habitable room windows anyway.
Okay, thank you. We haven't moved on to debate yet.
That's what I was going to ask.
I think we can do that when we move into the debate, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Tridge.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Planning Committee. As Councillor for the Whitestone Ward, I wish to speak about the proposed development of 302 Lutterworth Road, where the property lies. I have had many concerned residents approach me regarding the development of this site. The proposed development of this site lies on the corner of Lutterworth Road and Thornhill Drive, which are both very busy roads. Thornhill Drive is a main road into one of the estates. Lutterworth Road is on the main route into Nuneaton from Magna Park, Wolvie and the surrounding villages. The property lies next to the very busy junction, especially during rush hour. The development is for an extension which will contain 8 bedrooms in total. Seems to be an overdevelopment of the site, which is currently only a 4-bedroom property, therefore doubling the capacity. With the extension of the rear of the property, you can see in the plans that the property will increase the depth, therefore obscuring views and potentially, as we've just heard, light from the immediate neighbour's property. We need to consider the impact this vastly overdeveloped property will have on their quality of living. Therefore, the key issues arising from these proposed plans for the property include the scale, the overdevelopment of the site. 8 bedrooms, does that mean 8 cars? Parking? In my view, the current plans are a vast overdevelopment of the site. Before a decision is made on this proposed development, I strongly urge and ask the committee for a site visit at least. Thank you.
No? Finally, Darren? Nothing? In that case, to enable debate to take place, can I move the recommendation, which is approval subject to conditions? Is that seconded? Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. Councillor Pomfret.
For more information about the present parking arrangements, I noticed that at the moment there's a garage to the rear of the property, which is going to be demolished. I assume access is from the side, not from Lutterworth Road, and that there is a drop curb. Can that drop curb continue to be used for access to the rear garden? That's one question, and then I assume that, am I correct? Thank you.
I believe the drop curb down Thornhill Drive still remains.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Hello. I believe the drop curb down the sound of down Thornhill Drive still remains.
So that will remain, and is there also a drop curb to the front?
Yes.
Any other member? No? Yeah, I've seen it. Councillor Grant.
Comments made by representatives number 300 Lutterworth Road and Ward Councillor Julian Gutteridge. I think that it would be appropriate to ask for a site visit, as I know it's a very busy junction. I can see there being potential visibility problems here, so I think that and of course there's the county highways objections from before, so I think that it's appropriate for all of the members to have a look so that we make the correct and right decision for residents there when it comes to committee.
It's been moved and seconded a site visit to look at the highway implications in regard to the application. Yeah, hear that? All those in favour of that? And against? So we'll have a site visit prior to the next meeting of this planning committee. Officers can be available if you want to contact them to tell you about that process on the day. Okay, thank you very much. If we can move on to item number 4, please. Item number 4, that's Baker Street.
This application is for a new detached 2-storey dwelling with existing garage to be demolished. 1 Baker Street is an extended semi-detached property adjoining number 3 Sanders Road. South of the application site are the neighbouring semi-detached properties of 3 and 5 Baker Street. The area in the proximity, Baker Street, Sanders Road, and the nearest part of Black Horse Road, consists of residential properties from the 1930s to 1950s, being semi-detached. There have been 5 letters of objection from 3 addresses. The comments are summarised in the report. This slide shows the proposed elevations. The key issues in determining this application are the principle of the development, residential amenity, visual amenity, and impact on highway safety. It is considered that the proposal will contribute to the housing need, is consistent with the National Planning Policy Framework, and will also contribute towards the housing supply shortage in the borough. The potential impact is to 1 Baker Street and 3 Baker Street. In relation to the applicant's property, 1 Baker Street, the proposal will block views to the only habitable kitchen window, which is to the side of the property. However, this window is considered a secondary window on account that the original rear window was lost as a result of the owner's extension. Unfortunately, therefore, the window cannot be protected. Relating to 3 Baker Street, this property also has windows to the side, which are also secondary windows, and again cannot be protected as they are not the primary source of light. Related to impact on visual amenity, the proposal is almost in line with the neighbouring property to number 3 Baker Street, and it is also proposed that the materials will be in keeping with the area. The scale of the proposal and roof form also mirrors the existing properties. However, where the proposal differs is that it is a detached property in an area of semi-detached houses. This is contrary to paragraph 3.1 of the Residential Design Guide, which states that local distinctiveness in terms of form must be respected. Similarly, the National Planning Policy Framework states that the development should establish a strong sense of place and respond to local character and history, and reflect the identity of the local surroundings and materials. It is therefore considered that the proposal is contrary to these policies, and that it would fail to relate well or integrate with the surrounding area. The Highway Authority were consulted and have removed an initial objection and considered that the proposal would not be detrimental to highway safety. In conclusion, our recommendation is to refuse the application for reasons stated in the report and the addendum.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mistry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for allowing me to speak. 1 Baker Street belongs to my client. It's a corner property of circa 460 square metres, or approximately 0.12 acres. Divided into 2, this gives you a substantial property size of 230 square metres per property, which is well above the national and local minimum design standards achievable for this area. Referring to documents such as the SPG, the Residential Design Guide from Nuneaton and Bedworth, and the PPG, General Policy and Principles, states what is good and bad design, what is acceptable and not acceptable on the development, new developments and extensions and alterations to property. All of these design guides we have met and gone beyond. Under Section 9, Privacy and Aspect of Light, back-to-back distances, light and overlooking, We have also considered all of these aspects and not only met, but exceeded the minimum design standards. Referring to housing supply and phasing background paper adopted by Nuneaton and Bedworth, Appendix A, sites with planning permission, shows a capacity and states a number of dwellings supposedly gaining planning permission within the area, between 1 and 233 dwellings. Some of these single dwellings which have been applied for have lapsed and never been built. We have an applicant here who is looking to increase the housing supply for a number of reasons. First of all, the property belongs to them. They have a site that is able to be developed and they want to develop it for themselves. DCLG 2011 looks at increasing new homes in the region. It also goes on to say, under the planning reforms, giving communities more control through the community and right to build schemes. The MPPF states that local authorities will encourage the effective use of land by reusing land as long as it is not of high environmental values. I can go on, and there's a whole number of policies which haven't been considered by the planning authority in this particular application. Household earnings in this area are very low, amongst the lowest in the Midlands for Warwickshire, and there are a considerable number of people who are working age claiming benefits. This contributes significantly to poverty and deprivation within this particular area. The extended family relationship, as you all know, is becoming more of a common affair within the communities. And having this built next to the applicant's site is now going to encourage another family to come in. I've searched through the planning portal over the last year, and there's been 10 similar applications, and I appreciate that every application is done under its own merits. Hence, I've limited to the searches to concentrate on what the planning officer thought was the main grounds for refusal, which is a detached property within a semi-detached area. Just to give you a few examples. Can I carry on?
No, that's 3 minutes. The
Okay.
time is usually accurate. Okay, thank you. Are there any points of clarification? No? Anything, Darren? No? In that case, to enable debate to take place, can I move the recommendation, which is to refuse planning permission? Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Any member? Sorry? Oh, yeah, sorry, Mr. Councillor Pomfret.
The new property, on that plan which is showing there, there's a I can't actually see the house number 1 at the moment, but there's this rectangular thing in the corner which I assume is a garage for number 1. Am I correct? What's going to be the parking arrangements for number 1? On the plan it shows 2 cars tandem parked for the number 3, or the house which is going to be next to it, but there's nothing about what parking arrangements are going to be for number 1 once the garage is no longer there.
That's not part of the... that was not part of the application site. It just shows you 2 spaces along within the application site.
Sorry, could I just ask, is that building a garage that appears and then is not on the plan for the new building?
I believe so.
Anybody else? No? If not, the recommendation is as printed, which is to refuse planning permission for those reasons printed. All those in favour of that? And against? And abstentions? That's refused. Okay, if we can go back to item number 2 then, please. Which is the land to the rear of 31 Plough Hill Road, Nuneaton.
This is an outline application to include access, appearance, layout and scale. It is for the erection of 10 new dwellings with associated external works and the formation of access off Plough Hill Road, requiring the demolition of number 1 Plough Hill Road. The majority of the sites were in the jurisdiction of North Warwickshire Borough Council, with only the access and a small part of the frontage within Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council's area. The dwellings will consist of two bedroom flats, two bedroom houses and 6 5-bedroom houses. The 2-bedroom houses and flats will be terraced and the 5-bedroom houses will be detached, with a total of 23 parking spaces proposed. The application is being reported to committee at the request of Councillor Kondaka. The following matters are to be considered at this stage: access, the layout, scale and appearance. The following matter is to be reserved at a future landscaping is to be reserved at a future stage and does not form part of this application. The site in question was previously approved for 12 dwellings at appeal in 2013. This application is for 10 dwellings due to land ownership issues relating to Fletcher's Drift Lane. As I stated earlier, the majority of the site is in North Warwickshire, which follows this line over here. The 2 dwellings within this borough are located where the cursors here, plot 7 and 8. The nearest property within Nuneaton and Bedworth is number 39 over here. As stated just now, the nearest property is number 39, and the previous permission had dwellings closer to them that proposed currently. Therefore, the impact has been reduced from the previous application. Furthermore, the access has been moved further north, also reducing the potential impact to number 39 Plough Hill Road. Regarding visual amenity, it is considered that the development would then enhance the surrounding area by providing a development that fronts Plough Hill Road. The design reflects the original built form of the area, including the use of terrace properties fronting Plough Hill Road. Furthermore, the site is of a sufficient size to create its own character, whilst also reflecting the local area with the inclusion of chimneys and sill and header details. The Highway Authority have no objection to the proposal. And in conclusion, Officer recommendation is to approve the application subject to conditions.
Okay, thanks, Darren. We have the recommendation in front of us to grant planning permission subject to the conditions printed. If I can move that to enable debate to take place, if it's seconded. Thank you. Any member? Councillor Sargent. Good.
It's a massive site and definitely it needs enhancing. However, my concern was that actually Plough Hill Road is almost like a chicane. Lots of parked cars on there, and when you actually come out of the site and look right, you cannot actually see the oncoming traffic coming down, which is quite fast. I don't know whether we could recommend some yellow lines around that area of them coming out, so that it would be easier for all the cars to get out of that. That is my only concern, that actually we'll be putting more cars on the road at a risky area. Thank you.
Good, please.
As Darren stated in his presentation, County Highways have no objection to the application, and the MPPF makes it clear that any impact on highway safety has to be severe to warrant any mitigation or conditions. In this case, based on the history of the site and the fact that it has had planning permission 5 years ago, which lapsed, Highways consider that the development of 10, in fact the original application was 12, this is actually a smaller scheme to what was originally approved. It would be difficult to substantiate any mitigation, I think, in this case.
Okay, thank you. If I can just say, this is one of those applications where a lot of members were concerned over it at the time, and that's why we refused it. And we're conscious, we even had a site visit, didn't we? I think we had a site visit, as I recall. But nevertheless, it went to appeal and the inspector allowed it. So there's kind of, I think it would be difficult to turn it down, especially as the Highways have got no objection to it. On a more positive note, I think actually the design is better than a lot of the applications we see, so that's probably a good thing. So, then, Councillor Llewellyn-Nash.
To clarify something, did you say that the Highways 5 years ago had no objections? Is that what you just said? And that nothing's been changed since?
I don't believe they objected, because that's why why the inspector.
I'm just concerned that there is substantially more traffic on the road since 5 years ago. And as Councillor Sargent has just said, you know, surely blind corners and vans parked, surely that has to be a road safety issue.
Yeah, but
for getting out of the site.
I don't think we'd argue with you, but what we're considering is the application we've got now, not 5 years ago, and that's the same thing for the County Highways people. Is they're considering this application, not the one 5 years ago.
Right. Okay.
The application lapsed. This is a new application.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it talks about the consultation responses, it says from Highways and others, no objection, subject to conditions. Do we know what the conditions are?
Yeah, those conditions that Highways have suggested are very similar to what the inspector included in his appeal decision a number of years ago, and they are detailed on the agenda. Let's have a look. Number 11, which talks about visibility displays, that's on there. They need to submit full details of the access, including levels and drainage. That's all conditions that Highways have suggested, and they are on the recommendation.
There's one at 17 as well about access for vehicles.
Yes. Yeah.
Chair, can I come back? They may have been suggested and they'll be done as part of this planning application. Are they going to be carried out as part of the application?
And they would have to submit details before they could start any works on the site, and potentially, if details aren't submitted, it's potentially a breach of that condition, so yes.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation to grant planning permission subject to the conditions printed has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? And against? Okay, so that's approved. Can we move on to item number 3, please? Which is 73 Barbridge Road, Bulkington.
This proposal includes extending the existing double garage to the rear and changing the flat roof to a pitched roof with a maximum height to the ridge of 5.7 metres, including roof lights to the front and a dormer to the rear. This application has received 6 letters of objection from 5 addresses. These are stated in the report. The key issues in determining the application are housing a principle of the development, visual amenity, residential amenity and highway safety. The proposal is making sustainable use the proposal is making a sustainable use of an existing site and will provide a one-bedroom apartment, of which there is need for in the borough. The MPPF states that local planning authorities should aim to deliver a wide range of houses for needs of different groups of people. In this case, the proposed flat will provide a one-bedroom property for a single person or couple in an area that is predominantly 2 or 3 bedroom dwellings. Furthermore, it is well documented that there is a shortfall of housing in the borough. The potential impacts are to number 71 Barbridge Road and the flats themselves at 73 Barbridge Road. In relation to 71, the proposal will provide some shadowing to the existing side kitchen window. However, this window is a secondary window and not the primary source of light. Furthermore, the rear window is not infringed at a 45 degree by a 45 degree line. In relation to 73 Barbridge Road, the existing residents of the flats, the proposal does not go beyond the rear wall and therefore will not have any impact to habitable room windows. Here's the extension here. Here's the rear of the property. The extension does not go beyond here, so there's no impact on those living to the rear. Regarding visual amenity, the footprint of the building is already in place except for the rear extension. In terms of the scale, the proposal is considered in keeping with the property and with the area, as many of the surrounding properties also have single or two-storey extensions. The proposal is to be gabled to the side, similar to the original house. The drawings state that the brickwork and roof materials will also match the existing house. It is considered, therefore, that the proposal is in keeping with the area in terms of visual amenity and complies with the borough's residential design guide. The Highway Authority have also been consulted and have no objections. In conclusion, Officer recommendation is to approve the application subject to conditions.
Okay, thanks, Darren. We don't have any speakers, so to enable debate to take place, can I move the recommendation, which is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions printed? Is that seconded?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. Any member? Councillor Sargent.
So I also yesterday had a day off. You can see how the gentleman is already trying to make it so it's part of the road. Part of the street, making it look like a house, and I think the extension would make it more like that. However, the front of the building, where normally you would see where you'd park your car or have a bit of garden, it's just absolutely concrete, so it's still the old concrete that went with the old offices that were there before. And to make it more enhancing, I didn't know if there was any chance that we could recommend that the front was tarmacked, as all the other properties are surrounding that large tarmac drive where the cars could go on, rather than it be an old concrete building. Thank you.
I'm being told no, it's not something that we could condition. It's what they've got. And could we put is it possible to put a note on it to ask them if they could make that improve the appearance of it?
We could, but
they don't
hold
no.
a lot of weight.
No, I understand that, but I think if if it's a concern, at least we can ask, can't we? So could we put that note on?
With tarmac, it can bring its own problems in terms of surface wattage.
Yeah.
Drainage if it's not done correctly.
Yeah, but there might be something else they could do to improve the appearance. So what I'm suggesting is we put a note on to ask them if they could improve the appearance of that frontage, you know, on the ground. Okay? Councillor Smith.
As it happens, I walked past it last night, and I have spoken to a couple of the surrounding residents. The actual conversion will improve the look of the property, and I think residents were unanimous in that. The big problem is that it's going to be a house of multiple occupation, albeit a small one that doesn't need a licence. And already there are 5, I know they've got 4 spaces on the plan for parking. Last night when I walked past, there were 2 big vans and 3 cars. That's without the extra flat in there. I'm not sure if we can do anything about parking, but that's the main issue that the residents have around that, and the front is very untidy. But again, I'm not sure you can do anything about that.
Highways were consulted and did not raise any issues regarding.
Any other member? Councillor Llewellyn.
But the bins seem to be an issue as well. There are 4 bins outside the front. Is there any way that perhaps they could be asked for bin storage around the back? Oh, is it? Okay. Sorry, Chair.
Is that one there?
Page 41, condition 3.
Okay, what's being pointed out to me is under the schedule of conditions number 3 that the details of the bin location must be submitted to the council. And if it's to the front, an appropriate bin store must be submitted and approved. Okay? Right, any other member? If not, the recommendation is to grant permission subject to the conditions printed. All those in favour of that? That's unanimous, thank you. We don't have any urgent items. Can I thank you very much for attending and declare the meeting closed. Thank you.